What up, what up, what up? Welcome to Yo Bible Say. Woo! My name is Jasmine Young, and if this is your very first time listening, welcome. If this is not your first time listening, also welcome. I'm just glad that you're here. However you came upon this podcast, I'm just glad you're here. Honestly, I am. For each and every person that actually takes the time to listen and wants to grow deeper in their relationship with God, or has no relationship and they're like, what the heck does the Bible even, what are you talking about in the Bible? Let me tell you, I'm just here to help, okay? So I get really excited about talking about the Bible because, well, it's really transformed my life. Like, I used to be out here in these streets, man, doing God knows what, okay? And, listen, this is the best decision I've ever made in my entire life. Following Christ has legit been the best decision. It has helped me be able to be the person I am today. There's no way, with all the things that I've been through, that I would be where I am today if it weren't for God. I owe it all to Him. And so, anyways, I'm just really glad you're here, and I really hope that you make it past the first 2 minutes of this intro and you actually listen to the Bible, okay? Because that's what I really just want to dig into. So before we get started, I want to pray, because I pray over every single episode, and today is no different. So I just want to pray and give this time to God. So God, I just thank you for this time. I thank you for each and every listener under the sound of my voice. I thank you for their life, for their love. I thank you just for who they are. I thank you that you have woven and crafted them even in their mom's womb, and that they are called to do what you have for them. And so, God, I just thank you for just their willingness to even be here today. God, I ask that as they go about their days, while they listen to this, that something that is said penetrates their heart, that something that is said hits in such a way that is transformative. I thank you that there is power in your word, and as your word goes forth, that it's not just going to fall on bad soil. I thank you that each and every one of these listeners is just excited and expectant for a move of God. But God, I just thank you, and I give you this time. God, allow it to be your words and not mine, and just allow it to fall on good ground. I already know it's going to. So God, I'm expectant to see just such a move of your hand in today's episode, but such a move of your hand in their lives. And so God, I just thank you, and I praise you, and I give you this time. This is your show. I'm just in the back seat. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay, so I'm really excited about today's topic because, well, I feel like it's one that a lot of people struggle with. And so we are going to be talking about faith. And if there was a title that I could give today's episode, it would be Faith That Stands the Test. Now, first of all, you need to understand what the word faith even means, okay? Faith is having a, how would I put this? Like a complete trust in something or someone, right? So we are going to be reading from Genesis 22, good Lord, verses 1 to 13. Now, first of all, I just want to show y'all, this is so disrespectful. My children just disrespected my Bible, and I was devastated, okay, because the amount of just little colorings that are all over this page, okay, it's a little hard to read. So, I mean, I'm doing the best I can. So don't make fun of me if I actually gotta, like, if I trip up on some words or whatever. It's because I can't read because these dang kids done colored over everything. Anyways, this is going to be so good, okay? And if you've listened to the podcast before, you know good and well I'm about to tell you. If it's a lengthy version of scripture, okay? Just hang in there, because y'all be watching Netflix and y'all be listening to some audiobooks. And if you don't listen to audiobooks, whatever, if you be reading, you be scrolling for, way longer than 13 verses. So y'all can be patient and y'all can listen. So just let me read these 13 verses, okay? I promise it's going to be good and it's going to be worth it because, well, it needs to make sense. And I'm going to make it make sense, okay? All right, so verse 1 says, "Sometime later, God tested Abraham's faith. Abraham, God called. Yes, he replied, here I am. Take your son, your only son, yes, Isaac, whom you love so much, and go to the land of Moriah. Go and sacrifice him as a burnt offering on one of the mountains, which I will show you." The next morning, Abraham got up early. He saddled his donkey and took 2 of his servants with him, along with his son Isaac. Then he chopped wood for a fire for a burnt offering and set out for the place God had told him about. On the 3rd day of their journey, Abraham looked up and saw the place in the distance. "Stay here with the donkey." Abraham told the servants, "The boy and I will travel a little farther. We will worship there, and then we will come right back." So Abraham placed the wood for the burnt offering on Isaac's shoulders, while he himself carried the fire and the knife. As the 2 of them walked on together, Isaac turned to Abraham and said, "Father?" "Yes, my son," Abraham replied. We have the fire and the wood," the boy said. "But where's the sheep for the burnt offering?" First off, I just think that that's so funny because, like, can you imagine being Isaac? Like, yo, we got all these utensils. We got all these things. Dad? So, like, where's the offering? Because, like, it's just us. Anyways, I just think that part's funny. It says in verse 8, "God will provide a sheep for the burnt offering, my son," Abraham answered. And they both walked on together. When they arrived at the place where God had told him to go, Abraham built an altar and arranged the wood on it. Then he tied his son Isaac and laid him on the altar on top of the wood. And Abraham picked up the knife to kill his son as a sacrifice. At that moment, the angel of the Lord called to him from heaven, "Abraham, Abraham." "Yes," Abraham replied, "here I am." "Don't lay a hand on the boy," the angel said. "Do not hurt him in any way, for now I know that you truly fear God. You have not withheld from me even your son, your only son." Then Abraham looked up and saw a ram caught by its horns in a thicket. So he took the ram and sacrificed it as a burnt offering in place of his son. Okay. So, for starters, this story is just, I love it. I really love it because the amount of faith that Abraham had to have to be told to sacrifice his only son is nuts. Okay? Like, he wasn't, it does, now let me tell you something. It doesn't say in here at all that he didn't have any type of emotion. It didn't say that Abraham didn't feel some type of way about it, but he was obedient to it. Which I think is really important to know, because sometimes we think that when God tells us to do something, or we know to do something, that we have to ignore our actual emotions, which is not true. It doesn't take away our emotions. Faith just means that we trust that God's plan is better than ours. And whatever he's going to do has to be better than the right now. Then despite my feelings, I can still trust and have faith in God. And the one thing, first of all, I just want to point out, I could not be Isaac. There is no way that I could be Isaac, because I would have so many questions other than just that one. Like the one that was noted, Abraham would have had to put a dang duct tape muzzle something on my lips to stop me from talking, because ain't no way you about to tie me up and place me on some wood and have the dang knife coming down. You about to kill me. You about to kill me, Dad. You about to kill me. You think I'm going out without letting you know about yourself? Ain't no way. Ain't no way I could be Isaac. So we bless God for Isaac. Okay? We do, because it's so crazy. But how many times are we tested with our faith, but we fold? So instead of having faith, we fold. We're like, oh, okay, God, I'm really trusting that. I'm trusting you that I'm going to get this job. But you don't get an interview and or call back. You still got that same faith that he knows what's best? Or you folding? God ain't listening to me anyway, so I'm going to just have to go hustle. Listen, I have a whole story for that, because there was a point in my life. First of all, I've done so many things in my life, okay? But at this time, I was in the military, and I made enough money, okay? I did. But I was doing dumb stuff with my money, like buying Jordans all the time, and like I was here for every new release and all the things, right? So I was not a good steward of my finance, let alone even tithing, okay? I did not do that whatsoever in any way, shape, or form. It would be like the pity. I won't even say pity because that sounds bad. But I would give like an offering every once in a while. I'd be like, oh, well, $20 here and like maybe $5 here. Like, I'm doing something. I'm still giving to the kingdom. Meanwhile, I would be like $120 every week for shoes. That was crazy. But again, I wasn't a good steward of my finances during this time. Okay. So myself, I was like, I just need a better job. I need a better job. And I couldn't find a better job at the time. So I was like, bet. I did not once think of like going to God. Not once. Not once did that cross my mind. I was just like, you know what? I got to go after it and I got to go get it. So then I started doing Uber. I literally drove Uber. And my trap muscles, let me tell you, used to be tight as I don't know what. And I remember Jarrell's faith during that time. He hated the fact that I would drive Uber. He would tell me all the time, he's like, we don't need to do that. Like, we need to just have faith in God. We need to trust God to provide. And I remember looking at him and wanting to slap him in the face, because I was like, that's the stupidest thing I've ever seen. This is what the circumstances look like. This is what our reality is. Like, sure, you can live in la la land, but like, I'm going to live in reality, sir. And I just remember being so upset. And the funny thing now is that's me. Like, because so many of us will put ourselves into positions and knock down doors that God never intended us to be in, because we don't trust him to figure it out. As if he ain't create this whole world. As if he didn't create us. As if he is short on resources. We got the audacity to think that we know better than God. But how many of us do that in real life all the time? Like, we trust God to show up until maybe our foot's a little close to the fire. Like, I remember a story of somebody who they were close in my life, and I remember just the loss of hope and faith completely in God because a situation didn't turn out how they thought it should have. As if his plans aren't better than ours. As if we think that we have it figured out better than him. Stop trying to freaking make sense of it, okay? That's what that means to me. Stop. Just stop. If you started, stop. Like, if I am 1000% transparent, I don't know why the freak I'm doing a podcast besides to preach the gospel. That's all I know. That's all I know. Why he decided to do it via form of a podcast, I have no idea. But you know what? I have faith that he knows better than I do. Because let me tell you, this don't make no sense to Jasmine. This don't make no sense to Jasmine, who can barely figure out freaking Instagram. This makes no sense to me. But I believe and I have faith that his thoughts are higher than my thoughts, and his ways past my finding out. So I know it's not for me to understand everything that's going on in my life. I had a situation happen where I almost lost my daughter, squishy girl. And I remember that moment, like, it's the craziest thing because I remember that I had faith. I was an hour away from my child. An hour away. My child was unresponsive, and I was an hour away. Me and my husband. And you know what? I called Jarrell and I said, hey, we got to pray, and we got to pray now. Tears running down my face and everything. But not once did I think, God, why did you do this? Not once. I had faith that regardless of whatever happened, God is still God. And I'm going to fight and I'm going to pray tooth and nail. But I'm not going to give up. And I think that's the part where most of us get stuck. We see our circumstances and we think that our circumstances shape how we operate. But the thing is, I don't care what it looks like. I don't care what it sounds like. I don't care because I know that God is still on the throne. And just like Abraham in this, he said, first of all, I want to go back to verse 5 because this literally shows how much faith he had in God and how much he trusted God. Because it says, stay here with the donkey, Abraham told the servants. The boy and I will travel a little farther. We will worship there, and then we will come right back. How many of us do that whole like freaking out thing where like we see our circumstances, we see the situation, and then God shows up and we're like, he's an on-time God and he's so great and blah, blah. And, you know, you do all that, but the entire time you was freaking out. Like, God, are you going to show up? God, are you going to? God, you know? And you're so busy worrying about the situation and replaying it and then being like, well, you know what? It would be easier if I just like took this into my own hands because clearly I'm not hearing from him. So that obviously means that I need to go do something. When half the time he's like, would you just sit down and trust me? Like, there have been so many times that I speak with somebody and they're like, yeah, I hear what you're saying, but like, God, where are you? I hear what you're saying, but God, where are you? And some of us think that because we treat God as if he's a genie. We treat God as if he owes us anything. First of all, he sent his son to die for us, and that should be enough. But also, why are we going to him only when we're in a crisis? And then being like, oh, hey, gimme. Hey, show up. But I don't even talk to you except for Christmas, Mother's Day, and Easter. I don't talk to you in my everyday life. I hit you up when things go bad. And if you don't show up, see, I knew it. You're not even good. So now you start questioning the character of God as if you have that right to question who he is. When he has a track record, what's yours? Do you hold God to the same standard that you hold yourself to? I know the answer to that. No. And I don't even know some of y'all. But I know the answer to that. You want to know why? Because we expect so much from God. Yet he wants our obedience. He wants our faith and our trust in him, that regardless of what it looks like, God, you said that all things work together for good. We can't sit here and expect God to operate like an ATM. This ain't no transactional relationship where it's like, oh, well, I decided to not do the things that I was going to do today. And because of that, God, you owe me $10,000. He ain't no ATM. So if you think of him like that, please stop. Please stop. God ain't no ATM, and this ain't no transactional relationship. There is nothing you could do. There is nothing I could do. There is nothing any of us could do to earn the love that God has for us. Nothing. Not a single thing. So if you're trying to operate in this like, well, I did this, so God, now you need to do this. He's not a genie, so you don't need to treat him like he is one. It's not fair to him because he's so much more than that. And he's shown up and operates behind the scenes even though we can't see it. So even though we can't see what's happening, that doesn't mean his hand isn't moving. That's not how this works. You think he's about to tell you everything? Who do you think you are? You ain't nobody that special to think that God gonna tell you everything that he's doing. First of all, if that was the case, then would we even come to him for anything? Would we come to him for anything if he gave us everything? I know the answer to that. Probably not. My dad had a saying that he used to say all the time, and he used to say, that if you don't know the purpose of a thing, that you'll abuse it. Well, some of us don't know the purpose of God, so we abuse it. We abuse that relationship. And sure, abuse sounds like a very, very strong word for this. But realistically, do you have a relationship with Him? Do you even know what a relationship looks like? And let me tell you, I'm the first to know, I'm the first to tell you that I don't know everything. This got a lot of words in it. I don't know everything about the Bible. I don't. Don't know every single story. It's a lot of pages and a lot of words. But I know what a relationship with God looks like because of this. I know what a deeper relationship with Him looks like because I spend time with Him. That's like going on a date and you get ghosted. Like you got what you wanted out of the date, but now you ghost the person. That's the same thing. And that's how a lot of people treat their relationship with God. God, I need you so much. God, I need you to show up. But we lack faith. We lack the fact that He's even going to show up. We expect Him not to. And then we're like, you didn't show up? How dare you? Again, as if we get that right. We don't show up for Him, but expect Him to show up for us. We can't even have faith when we're down to $20 in our bank account. We can't even have faith that moves mountains because we can't even see across the street. We don't have the kind of faith that Abraham had where he said, no, God's going to provide a sheep for the burnt offering. When we get questioned by maybe people close to us and they're like, hey, what's going on with that situation? Instead of being like, I don't know, but God's going to provide. It's, oh, my life is in shambles and I don't know what I'm going to do. I can tell you that you can tell how a person's relationship with God is based on the things that they go through and how they handle it. Now, I'm not saying you got to handle every situation perfectly, but I remember like situation after situation after situation growing up, and my parents would just be like, I don't know how it's going to happen, but I know He's going to show up. I've seen Him do it too many times. And some of us, if we're real, we're trying to pick our brain as to when we've seen Him show up. But what about that time that you didn't go to jail for the thing that you should have went to jail for? What about a time where something should have happened to you, but instead it didn't? We forget the times that He's shown up for us. So then we start looking at Him as if He did something wrong, as if He owes us anything. And we start thinking negatively about Him, when in all honesty, where was your faith? If I believe that God's will is better than anything else, then I have to trust and believe that He's got it all figured out. That even when everything looks chaotic, He's got it figured out. I sat with my daughter lifeless in my arms. And you know who I called on? Jesus. But you know who I had faith in? Jesus. I said, God, I don't know how you're going to do it, but I know you're going to show up. I had that faith where I did not know what was going to pop off. I'm sitting there with my lifeless daughter in my arms. I didn't know what was going to pop off, but I knew he was going to show up. And I knew whatever I'm meant to walk through is what I'm meant to walk through, because I know that he has a plan and a purpose for my life. I know that reading the Bible has transformed my life because it transformed the way that I look at things. I can have faith that it's all working together for my good, even when it doesn't look good. Even when things are bad, that doesn't change how good God is. But when we lack faith, we lack an understanding that he is the same person. He's not a man that he should lie. God doesn't just give promises to us for us not to receive. He doesn't give promises to his people to go back on his word. He doesn't do that. And for our brains to try to comprehend what he's doing in our lives, we don't need to try to understand it. It's not for us to understand. We just need to have faith. We need to have faith in who he is and that he is not going to fail. We get the promise of eternity with God. We get that promise. And he's not going to go back on that promise. But we have to also uphold our end of the bargain. Like, you can't fully walk out being a faithful Christian if you have no faith. That makes no sense. You can't walk out and lead other people to Christ by your faith. Do you know that there's so many people who will look at somebody who is maybe going through some really, really hard stuff, but because of how they act, they know there's something different about them. People should know you're a Christian before before you consider yourself a Christian. People should already know. Your life should be such a walking testimony of God's goodness that there is no excuse me. My God, it's late. I'm sorry. Anyways, there should be nobody who is confused whether you're a Christian or not. People can tell a lot by people's faith. And again, faith is having complete trust in someone or something. Somebody said it best, and they said that a 90% faith is still unfaithful. A 90% faith is still 100% unfaithful. And they put it like this. They said, imagine being in a relationship, being in a marriage. If a husband came home and said, hey, babe, I love you so much. I love you so much that I'm 90% faithful to you. But this 10%, it is what it is. Would you say that they're unfaithful? 1000%. Because you don't get to pick and choose. Not in this marriage. That's not how it works with God. You're either all in or you're not. You have to be fully invested in this life where you have a faith that's unwavering. You have a faith that even if it's as small as a mustard seed, you know that God is going to show up. So I don't look at my circumstances. And I don't try to figure out what he's doing. I just know that he's going to do it. In James 2:14, I really like what it says, because it speaks really greatly to faith. It says, "What good is it, dear brothers and sisters, if you say you have faith but don't show it by your actions? Can that kind of faith save anyone?" This goes back to what I was saying, like, your actions matter when it comes to faith. People think that faith is just some type of like idea. It's some type of like moral compass. But it's not. Faith is being completely trusting in someone or something. You can have faith that Love is Blind is going to come on the next season. You can have that kind of faith because you know it's going to happen. But what happens when maybe you lose a child? Maybe you lose a family member. Maybe you lost your job. What happens then? Where's your faith then? What happens when you lost your car? What happens to your faith when you've lost your marriage? When your kids have gone astray? When what you thought was for you is no longer for you? What happens then? Where's your faith then? Do you have that same faith where you were screaming from the mountaintops of how good God is when you're in the valleys? Do you have that same faith to move mountains when you're dealing with grief? Do you have the same faith to move mountains when you're dealing with a hard life situation? Where's your faith? So I just want to challenge you guys today to have Abraham-like faith, where the faith isn't circumstantially dependent. It's God dependent. Because I know that he's good. And even if I go through this, he's still good because he's still God. If you ever need a reminder of the goodness of God, look outside. Look outside. You can't tell me that the trees and the water and the clouds and the sun and the moon and the stars, those things aren't beautiful. it shows how good God is. Look at yourself in the mirror. God is good. He created you. And I know sometimes for some of us, that can be hard to even wrap your mind around. How could somebody love me? But He does. And He doesn't give up on you. No matter how many times you mess up, He still welcomes you with open arms. But we have to have a faith that's bigger than just our circumstances. That's bigger than just today's problems. I can see His goodness even in the midst of sadness. I can see His goodness even in the midst of freaking losing my job, to losing a family member, to losing this, that, the third. Abraham had been asked such a monumentous thing. Hey, take your son, your only son, the one you love so much. What is it that you are withholding from God? You say, God, I can give it all to you, but not this. God, I can give you everything. God, I give you all of me, but don't take that. Because if you take that, then I don't know what I'll do. What is that one thing that you are withholding from God? That one thing that now you can't fully have faith in God, because if that thing leaves, where's your faith? I want you to be encouraged today and empowered to know that your faith can be just like Abraham's. You can look at a situation and say, I know what it looks like. I know what it sounds like, but I know that God's got me. I can look at my bills piling up because I've been a good steward of my finances, and I know that God's going to show up. I don't know how, I don't know when, but I know He's going to do it. I know that He's never failed me before, so why would He start now? When you start repeating the things that He's done for you, and you start focusing on those things, not your current situation, I guarantee you your faith will start to rise. Because you know that you know that you know that it was only Him that brought you out of that. And so again, I just really hope that this was encouraging, because, well, I feel like we all just need a little faith sometimes. And shoot, today especially, this is me stepping out in faith, because it is currently 10:55 at night. Your girl is tired. Been up all day. But I'm here to do what God has called me to do. And I don't understand it. And I don't need to. I just gotta trust it. And so this is me continuing to take this step in obedience to what God has called me to. So I hope and I pray that you were blessed by today. And I hope you have a wonderful night, morning, whatever time it is that you're listening to this. But I pray that you're blessed. I pray that I fell on good ground. And I pray that something good came of this and your faith can rise just a little bit more after this. All right, I love you guys. Peace.